Stick accessories, ties, loops and lanyards. Hi, Liam here from Hydro, and this is just a quick clip just showing you how to hold your stick on your hand. So I was gonna put on my glove. This is one of our new T2 gloves. I'm just gonna give it a plug. This is not the normal colour, normally it's just blue. So one of the problems you have in hockey is you're holding your stick like this and you're whacking and banging and everything, and sometimes your stick gets knocked out of your hand. What can we do about this? If you have a coach, most likely they'll always tell you off if you get your stick knocked out of your hand, and tell you to do one of these things. Use something to help out. So basically the first thing you need is drill a hole in the end of your stick. If you're ordering your sticks from us, there's a little option where you can pay an extra $10 or something and we'll drill them for you. And one of the oldest things to do is basically just put a cord through there, and you end up with a little tie and loop, and you stick your hand through, and then you hold on to your... I didn't do that right, did I? There you go. Stick your hand through, and then hold on, and then basically, if you lose it, you try and grab it again. Some people like this because if you do it right, you can basically end up, when you stab at the puck, you kind of get a bit of a tug off the old, you get a bit of a tug off this, and it gives you extra leverage to kind of stab at the puck. But the bad thing is that when you lose it, you have to go and grab it again, and it takes a wee while. And also sometimes you end up with this hangy thing that can get tangled up with other people. You end up with this sort of hangy bits which you can get other people's stick tied up in. So I used to do this when I was very young, not for a long time. What else have you got? So you got finger loops. So this is something which I think Benson might have started this here in New Zealand, but you basically have a little loop like this. These come as the thing which holds together sets of our sticks. If you want to make your own, you can basically just go and get an old tyre inner tube from a bike shop or something. They always have a bunch of them which are busted, and you just go in and say, hey, can I take some of your old tyre inner tubes? And they say, here you go, mate. And they give you a box, and you say, I'll just take one, thanks. I don't want all that stuff. Chop them up into little bits, and basically you get one which is the right size, and there's smaller and larger ones. You find one which is just right for you. Stick it around your middle finger, or your index finger, or this finger. I don't know, people use all sorts. I use the middle finger. And then what you do is you basically get your stick, pull that out like that, and just plop the handle through like this, so that your stick is held in your hand like that, and then you basically just hold it that way. And this means that basically if you get a big bang, then you can basically, your stick is still stuck to your finger. I would recommend using a nice thick juicy one, because sometimes people use like hair ties and whatever. That stuff can break easy. Rubber bands, that stuff can break. The bad thing about this is that this does actually it really holds your stick to the inside of your fingers. Obviously this can actually affect your passing, and you'll only find it if you try. But if suddenly your passing if you're trying this and suddenly your passing isn't working very well, I'd take it off and then just try your passing again. And if your passing is now working again, then it might be that the way that you pass is adversely affected if you actually sort of pin that together in that fixed way. Maybe you need a bit more movement in your pass. That's what I find. Finger ties are not. I use them for a while. They're not great for me just because of that. And also, they're not as stable as some other things. Like you can still get your stick and the tie ripped all the way off if you have something sort of grab you at the right angle. So there's that. Some people also they like to use a bigger loop. So they're basically something like this. They'll stick that over, and then they basically they'll stick that in there somehow, or they'll sort of bend it round somehow, or maybe they might loop that around there somehow. I don't know, a bunch of different ways that people like to do it, which you can try. You could find a way that suits you. I would leave the option of getting that index finger out. if you're swimming around and you're getting pinged by the ref all the time for doing that, then maybe this is actually a perfect thing to try and keep that finger from not popping out. But anyway, so that's another thing that people like to try. And then the last thing is, what we used to do when I started playing hockey, we basically used to have a hole there, and we'd also drill a little hole in there, and then we'd have a piece of like a, what are they called, bungee cord, or very thick elastic, and then that would basically go through here, put a knot underneath it, and a little loop through there. So you basically have this little forget the bottom stuff. You have a little loop like that, which basically meant that when it's on, you could literally just take your fingers off, and it was actually held really tightly to your hand because with a piece of decent bungee cord. We liked that for a while, but that's quite restrictive too, because it means that you can't really move your hand around hardly at all. Which, when you start to do a little bit more work with your skills, especially if you're starting to move your wrist around and use all the facets of your stick, that becomes quite restrictive too. So what I like to do now is you basically just have the one hole, especially with now we have plastic sticks. We had wooden sticks then. Now we have plastic sticks, and you don't want to be drilling a hole straight through basically the stress point of the whole stick. The most stress in a stick is somewhere in there. You have a break point there in the handle if it's too thin, and then you have all the hitting. That's your hit spot. That's where you do all your punishing smashes. So no hole in there, just one hole at the end, and what you do is you basically get a piece of tie like this, tie it at the end at the appropriate length, and then you basically stick it through that little hole, feed it through, pull it out. So now you have this, and now you basically take that and you pop it on the handle like this, so that it makes this little loop. So the loop goes over, and then it goes underneath itself, and then you just pop your fingers through like this, and you kind of had what I just described, except you're more flexible now, because you can actually, I like to actually take this back one, put that over the back of my hand like that, and then you basically, depending on how flexible you need, you can pop that one on just those two fingers and leave these fingers with a lot more play, or you can put them over all four or one. Normally mine works like that, because my pass works better if these fingers just have a little bit of an ability to sort of move somehow. I don't know exactly how, but that's how it works. And then that's it. That's my recommended way to do it. But of course you use what's best for you. And this is how people do it. Hope that's useful. If you like little vids like this, hit subscribe, and once we get 100 subscribers, YouTube will give us no money. Alright, have a great day. Cheers.